Hello, everybody. Peace. So, today I'm going to be talking about anger. And I did recently listen to a video from someone who did an amazing talk on it. And my own favorite video, and there's a lot of videos, but it was just about anger in itself and the way we should show anger and how this anger shows up. So, there is so much information. There is so much amazing information out there when it comes to being angry and how to be angry and when to be angry. And this video is going to explore a different part of that related to childhood trauma and some of the feelings that we have with the people who were supposed to take care of us. And sometimes it can feel extremely difficult not to be angry with them. And here is hopefully a little bit of guidance in something that helped me in my own journey. And I hope that it will help you as well.
From beautiful seeds to flourishing legacies.
So if you're someone who's been through a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, you've been through some difficult situations when you were a baby or when you were growing up, and maybe even when you were grown up, and it could be recent as well, but it was a situation where you had to be around someone or a community for a long period of time, and they really affected the way you think about yourself, right? It could even be social media, right? The extent of how much influence it has on you. So this is someone who was influential on you, and then what happened is being around them created this kind of feeling that you have towards yourself, right? So for example, it can come out in many ways. It could come out in I am overweight, or I have the most awful voice, or I am not very clever, or I am too naive. I am all these things, right? Or it can come out in a different way where it's like, I don't trust that person because basically they remind me of someone who I knew, but you have no idea who that person is, and you never met them, but you just don't like them, right? It could come out in another way where you're having a conversation with someone and the conversation is going so nicely and you're good friends with them, and then what ends up happening is that this thought comes to you and it completely just stops you being close to that person because it's such a shocking thought and it's towards that person and you don't know where it came from. And this person is so sweet and genuinely a good person, right? And a nice, good enough person. We can only ever be good enough, right? And what I mean by that is there will never be a perfect person out there that you will have a yin and yang, or so to speak, an aligned relationship in the perfect way. There will always be issues with every relationship we have, but it's not about having the perfect relationship. It's about having a good enough relationship. This inner is an inner critic, which is against ourselves, and there is an outer critic, which is against other people. And the question, again, like I said, is the question of being angry. And sometimes when we hear the inner critic, the person inside of us who is telling us that we are just not good enough, or the person outside, I guess the one who is towards the outside is telling us they are not good enough, the people outside are not good enough, then or they will hurt us and you just really can't trust anybody, then both of them, it can be easy to be angry with ourselves. And I remember a situation where I had a particularly bad outer critic because I was around, I'd been around someone who was very I believe that they were covert narcissists, but there was no diagnosis given. It was just the certain traits that they had. They had these tendencies. And what happened was these thoughts would come, this outer critic. And it was so difficult to deal with because I ended up being angry with myself. And what happened was it was so unsettling, it was so destabilizing, and it was so awful to feel this negative feeling towards myself. And because I was thinking these things against myself, it was like just beating upon beating upon beating, and until there was no sense of self, right? That's what it comes down to. And I want to really talk about anger again, right? So anger is something that is necessary. Anger is when a boundary has been crossed. There can be extreme anger, which is not really anger at all, it's rage, and it's covering up what true anger is, which is protecting your boundaries. Rage is impeding others' boundaries, hurting them, right? And then there's suppressing anger, which is keeping the anger inside of us, and then that is hurting our boundaries. You're doing an injustice against yourself, or rage, you're doing an injustice against someone else. And the best one is the balanced anger. And then sometimes it could be really confusing in how to deal with our anger with some of the ways that we were raised when we were growing up, right? So here I'm just going to say it, right? I'm just going to say it. When we are angry and we hear the inner critic and the outer critic, don't be angry at yourself. Don't be angry at yourself, because that inner and outer pain that you're feeling is enough of a punishment and enough of a pain to you. It is hurtful to you, it is demeaning, and you're hurting yourself over and over and over again. And the last thing that you need is to be angry at yourself. Because this way of thinking came from a form of abuse that happened to you. And it became a mode of thinking to protect you. And it ends up hurting you instead. So first and foremost, don't be angry at yourself when you hear this inner critic and this outer critic. Secondly, what you can be angry at is the people who made you feel this way. And these are the people who could have been friends. It could have been someone else. And now here comes a question as well with Muslims, especially with our parents, right? There's this respect that we must have for our parents. And when we look at our parents now, they might have been very different to who they were then. Not specifically throwing your anger on any individual in particular. You're throwing your anger at the specific voice that is going on in your head. Now, I know that there's a difference of opinion on this. And there are so many nuances. And I could go into the way that it should be dealt with, the inner critic, outer critic. I know a lot of people say it's just protecting you, be compassionate towards it. And yes, that is true. You have to have that basis of compassion towards your inner critic and the outer critic. You approach it from a part of yourself that has been wounded and hurt. But when at the time that is happening, that you are being literally attacked by these voices, very much like whispers to you, and it's stopping you from living your life, and it is difficult in that moment, you have to stop the thought. And the way that you stop the thought is saying, no, that is not true, right? And it doesn't have to be some crazy like shouting and screaming like to yourself in the middle of nowhere. It's just saying to that voice in your head, which is telling you a false perspective that is not your perspective, that is from everyone else telling you their perspective, who isn't even you, right? And just saying to the voice, no, that's not true. That's not true. And there's a little bit of anger that has to come with that. Because in order to stop that thought, you have to do it with a kind of force that there is nothing like. And that force is anger, because the purpose of anger, if you look at a lioness, right, protecting her children, the way she will attack the people, not the people, even people, right, but the animals around her just to keep her child safe, she would literally tear them apart. Because of her anger of protecting what is hers, her boundary, right? And that's the energy that has to come out when we are being attacked internally and externally as well. And there is a nuance as well. I know there's a lot of stuff that I've covered here, and hopefully there could be something beneficial you take away from it. But as Muslims, there's also this idea of the devil, right? The devil whispers, he gives waswas, he tells us these messages and things that are not true, and they really take us away from our true purpose. It can be extremely disheartening. And the way we deal with that in Islam is we say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You seek refuge in the Creator, and you basically, that's how you deal with it. And it's a very similar idea, because there is this boundary that is being trespassed, even if it is a boundary being trespassed by yourself. You can trespass your own boundary. A part of you can trespass your own boundary. The devil can trespass a boundary. And it is about taking back that space that belongs to you. And with time, when you keep doing this and you keep correcting that way of thinking, saying, no, that is not true. This is the way things really are. And you do it with that self-preservation that Father energy, right? That the way the father is supposed to take care of you. And then there is the compassion part of it as well, because you are compassionate towards yourself, right? And then you bring these two things together, and then you truly are a force to be reckoned with, because no one can come from inside of you or outside of you telling you about yourself and how the world is, which isn't the case at all. Thinking they're doing good for you, sometimes thinking they're not doing good for you at all. And you can think for yourself, right? And that is the whole point of this. So you can think for yourself about how the world really is, the objective truth of the reality around us, inside of ourselves, the things that we are going through personally. And it is extremely humbling, right, to see how many flaws and how many things we have to work through and how constant they are, and how we take one step and there's 10 steps we feel we've taken back. It's so humbling, and you have to be on your side when you do that. I hope this video was useful for you, and you can use that anger as a force to be reckoned with in defending yourself from yourself and from all that is not good for you. And I pray that our Creator is a means of protecting us and protects us and helps us to do that and come closer to Him overall. I mean, just to let you know, there is a free downloadable. It is a chapter from my book, The Woke Writer. It is a chapter all about being letting go and surrendering. And I hope you all have a blessed day. All the details are under wherever you are listening or watching this. Stay well, everyone. Peace.